What's up, y'all? Just came across this little essay in the New York Times by Christina Kuzmich, and I think that's how you pronounce her. Maybe Kuzmik. I don't know. Sorry, Christina. This is an essay adapted from her book, I Can Fix This and Other Lies I Told Myself While Parenting My Struggling Child. And so you'll immediately see why I'm reading this, and then I'll say a few things afterwards. So this is titled, My Son Was in a Psychiatric Hospital. Why Was I Celebrating? In the midst of a family crisis, a writer contemplates whether heartache and joy can coexist. My 40th birthday celebration had been in the works for months. The plan was as follows. On Friday, my husband was throwing a party for me in the private room of a hillside restaurant with gorgeous views of Los Angeles. Our closest friends and family would be there. Philip had hired a DJ, rented a photo booth, ordered a 3-tiered chocolate cake, and picked out an eclectic menu of my favorite dishes. Then, from Saturday through Monday, I'd take a road trip to Santa Barbara with 3 of my closest friends. But life doesn't happen in a vacuum where we can focus on just one plotline. The days leading up to my birthday were anything but celebratory. The Tuesday before my birthday, our family situation reached the point where I called the police on my 15-year-old son, Luca. He had been struggling with clinical depression and suicidal ideation, and had been self-medicating with substances for the last few years. The officers took him to the emergency room where, on Wednesday, I saw him before he was transferred to a psychiatric hospital. On Thursday, I was allowed to visit him there. I'd been excited about turning 40. I love birthdays. When Luca turned 6 months, I decided we should celebrate half birthdays. I baked him a cake and sang half of the happy birthday song. Every other syllable, because complicating things is one of my gifts. I kept up the tradition when my daughter Matea was born almost 2 years later. And after I met and married Philip, and we welcomed our son Ari, Matea and Luca took pride in teaching him our half-birthday song. But now I was lost at sea with no energy to paddle and no land in sight. I told Philip to call everything off. The party, my girls' trip. We can do whatever you want, he said, but I don't think you should cancel. This feels wrong, I said. I couldn't imagine turning my gaze away from Luca. Luca is safer than he's been in months, Philip said. He's with people who are trained to help him. He can't run away. He can't hurt himself. And you deserve a break, he added. Philip gently convinced me to go through with the entire weekend. But at the party, surrounded by love, I could barely touch my food. I was trying to keep it together, especially for Ari and Matea, who clearly wanted the celebration to be special. Ari had worn his favorite superhero cape, and Matea had bravely decided to give us a toast in my honor. Still, I kept wishing Luca were here with us. He was supposed to be there too, right next to me. All of our guests knew Luca had been struggling, and some even knew why he wasn't present. Still, I felt a responsibility to make sure the party was fun. I felt pressure to reassure everyone that we were fine, so no one felt bad for my son or our family. I should be researching the best ways to help Luca, I thought, while forcing smiles. I should be reading a book on mental health. I should be compiling questions for the doctors and the therapists. I should be a better mother. Eventually, a friend who could probably see that I was only half there pulled me onto the dance floor, and I completely let loose. I danced until I had blisters on my feet and sweat dripping down my back. It was as if my body was trying to release the emotions it had collected over the past few years. And it felt good, really good. Then, right after it felt good, it felt really bad. Everyone was dancing. Their joy was a reminder that our family was surrounded by people who saw us as more than the heartache of the last few months. Still, my love and worry interrupted the moment. What kind of mom dances while her son is in a hospital? I left for my road trip the following morning. Luca's hospital is between our house and Santa Barbara. So each day we were away, I planned to drive there. I let my friends know that I'd be gone for 3 hours. 1 hour to drive there, 1 hour with him, the strict time limit imposed by the hospital, 1 hour to drive back. But on our first day, my friend Joe beat me to the driver's seat. My friends Kat and Amy hopped in the back. Instead of lounging by the pool, shopping, or exploring Santa Barbara, they drove me to the hospital, dropped me off, and then waited for me while I was with my son. After each visit, I returned to that car and fell apart, releasing the tears I held back while visiting Luca. I cried and worried and vented and hoped. They listened, they encouraged me, and then they gently guided me back to laughter and joy. 10 days later, Luca was transferred to a residential treatment center, a move that brought a glimmer of hope and demanded another layer of resolve. After his intake appointment, I found myself driving straight to my friend Zach's apartment. I didn't plan this detour, but Zach was like a brother to me, and our friendship always brought me comfort. Decompressing with him after visits became a ritual. We'd eat Thai food, followed by snacks from the produce drawer in his fridge, which had zero produce in it because it was filled with candy. Over cold Andes mints and Kit Kats, we'd chat about our week. Sometimes I didn't want to talk about Luca. Other times I'd unload completely, and on one visit, I admitted that I still felt guilty for celebrating my birthday while Luca was hospitalized. Zach paused to look at me. "Don't feel bad," he said. "You did him a favor." "You gave him one less thing to carry," he said. With a deep breath, Zach explained that back in high school, when he was struggling with depression, he was awful to his mother. Almost 2 decades had passed, and their relationship was strong, but the pain he felt was still sharp. "If she'd canceled her birthday," he said, still holding my gaze, "I'd have even more to still feel guilty about." I sat in silence, imagining Luca, not as my baby, but as a man looking back. How would he reflect on this time in his life? How did I want to contribute to his memories? Did I want to give him more pain or regret to carry? ? I don't know why I just said question mark. What? It's because sometimes I do text to speech. That's so funny. Anyway, somewhere along the way, I'd learned that if my loved ones were suffering, I too needed to suffer. Once Luca was happy, then I'd be happy. Once Luca was healthy, then I could be healthy. Once Luca was able to live his life fully, then I would fully live mine. But what if my child was never completely healthy? That was a lot of pressure to put on a person. Life is messy. It keeps moving forward. It doesn't pause because my son is depressed. His struggles are a big, vital part of the picture, but they are not my entire story. I am allowed more than one emotion at a time. Pain and joy can coexist. So much has happened to our family in the 5 years since that milestone birthday. Luca has charted his own path toward healing. He graduated from high school, got his license, and a car he bought with money from a job he pursued, interviewed, and landed. He has an amazing girlfriend, and even on his hard days, he savors every minute of joy. Matea, too, has graduated, and Ari is becoming a young man. Philip and I finally feel like we can take more time to enjoy our marriage. Our family life feels a bit more balanced. Luca is no longer the main character of the most rapidly evolving plotline. We've all got room to shine. Recently, I asked Luca what he thought of my decision to host a birthday party while he was hospitalized. Despite wanting to seem cool, I braced myself for his reaction, whatever it might be. Luca just smiled and told me I deserved it. He was right. Okay, folks, obviously, if you're watching this, you probably know why that hits very close to home. And I'm just going to let that sit, but just reading that was really nice. And I think some of my more just self-blamey, guilty feelings, which I know aren't the truth, but they still are feelings that sometimes I feel very deeply. And there's a lot of those that kind of relate to this story, and just reading it definitely reminds me that, yeah, that guilt and that pain and those regrets, like, are also a bit of catastrophizing. And so, for instance, we had like a family kind of meeting, sort of, with a therapist, counselor kind of guy, and this was after one of Riley's big first psychotic episodes, I think. And I had a trip to LA for the first RodCon. And if you know the Bryn lore, you know what RodCon is. I can't get into that. I have 40 seconds. And it was really hard because that was going to be happening on like the day of RodCon. And I was really worried, but like part of me didn't want to go. But like my family was able to let me know that they wanted me to go, and that like Riley would want me to go too. And I'm glad I did. It was like amazing and super, super awesome and essential. But yeah, just reading this like does keep in my heart that like following the joy and holding that with the pain and with the struggle is a big thing that I hope to keep doing, and has been a big thing in the last several years. And it does make me really glad to know that, like, through my slobcores or through my photography and like all this stuff that I've been sharing, you can literally go back and see the joy and the connection and the celebrations that were happening amidst all the pain, and that Riley was involved with and enjoying and having fun. And even if there were times where they were struggling while this was happening, like, there was so much going on behind my own surface and behind the surface of everyone, I think. Like, there's friends that didn't really know the scope of everything just because it was very personal, and I was able to share with people and to get support, but it wasn't like something I was talking about publicly. And that's kind of hard talking publicly now, just knowing where we're at. Anyway, but that's all to say, like, it brings me so much pleasure and so much joy to know that I personally have been, like, doing my best to cultivate fun and connection, and did it many times, and have many, like, I still haven't gone back and looked through all the raw footage I have of Riley, but there's a lot of, like, times where they were over and we're talking, and I just have all that footage and all those conversations. And right now it's still something I guess I'm kind of avoiding a little bit, because it's also going to be a big job, like, going through my footage. But it's something that I feel really, really grateful to have, and that's just something that reminds me that that's what Riley would like too, and that Riley felt loved and supported, even amidst all their struggles. And this grief really is just so complex, but it still sits with me pretty deeply. But this little essay, I hope it gave me some peace, and I hope you listening 13 minutes in, I hope it gives you some peace too. Okay, bye.